I used to think rock bottom meant lying in a hospital bed or watching your bank account hit zero. Turns out it's something quieter. It's your wife standing in the doorway with a suitcase, looking you dead in the eye, and calmly telling you she's going to spend the weekend with another man. Just one weekend. That's what she said. 8 weeks before that, I got hit by a car. Freak accident. Teen driver flew through a red light while I was crossing the street with groceries. I shattered my hip and ended up needing surgery and a long recovery. My job, software development, didn't exactly have a crutch-friendly setup, so I took unpaid leave and stayed home. At first, I figured maybe this time off would be good. I'd reconnect with my twin boys, Dylan and Tyler. 13 years old and growing fast, maybe too fast. But from the first week, I could feel the energy shift. The boys got distant, cold. They weren't rude exactly, they just stopped talking to me like I was their dad. I became more like a guest in my own home. Lisa, my wife at the time, acted like she was holding everything together, picking up the slack, handling the errands, doing school runs. But something was off. I started noticing how she dressed when she went grocery shopping. A little too polished, a little too much perfume for aisle 7. And she got real protective of her phone. She'd lock it, keep it face down. If it buzzed, she'd suddenly remember laundry or start a new conversation. I had a lot of time to sit and notice. She stopped talking to me. Not in an obvious way, just a slow drift. No more daily recaps. No more, "How are you feeling today?" Just silence. And when I did speak up, she seemed annoyed, like I was interrupting something more important. But I didn't want to believe what I already knew. I ignored the signs, told myself I was imagining things. Then came the Friday night that changed everything. We'd just finished dinner. The boys were upstairs. I was in the living room, struggling to get comfortable with this stupid hip brace digging into my skin. Lisa walked in with that same cold, unreadable face she'd been wearing for weeks. "I need to talk to you," she said, setting her phone on the table. I braced myself. "There's a man, Marcus Bradford. He's going to be on the couple's trip next weekend." "Okay," I said slowly. "I'm going to sleep with him," she said. "Calm as you like. Just once. No lying, no sneaking around. I'm telling you in advance. It's not betrayal." I thought I misheard. "What?" She folded her arms. "I need this. Just one night. Then I'll come back and we'll be solid. Like before." "You're out of your mind," I said, trying to push myself upright. Pain shot through my leg. "You're not listening, Jack," she said. "This doesn't have to be a big deal unless you make it one. But if you do, I'll take the house. I'll take the boys. I'll drain our accounts and make sure your name is dirt to them. And you know I can do it." She could. And she did. I told her if she walked out that door, our marriage was done. She looked me dead in the face, then walked out anyway. I stayed in that chair the rest of the night, too stunned to cry, too angry to breathe. The next week was a blur. She came home like nothing happened. Said she hoped I could be an adult about this. Couldn't. I packed what I could, left the house, and watched everything crumble from a one-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and a broken microwave. She filed for divorce. Took everything. The boys didn't return my calls, then stopped replying altogether. And Lisa, she told everyone I walked out on the family because I couldn't handle being injured, said I wasn't man enough to deal with the pressure. The courts gave her custody. The house, even the damn dog. I had crutches, pain meds, and an empty weekend schedule. The worst part wasn't the loneliness. It was knowing that my sons believed her. Believed that I was the one who abandoned them. That I was the villain in their story. All I ever did was stay faithful. Show up, pay bills, be there. I was there until I couldn't take the lies anymore. On Sundays, I started going to the laundromat a mile from my apartment. It wasn't just about clean clothes. It was the only place where I felt like I wasn't in anyone's way. No expectations. Just the hum of machines and the smell of detergent. I showed up at 7 a.m., like I always did. And that's when I saw her. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, dragging a cart full of dirty clothes behind her. The rear wheel on her cart was bent, wobbling wildly. She could barely hold the door open. Her jacket was thin. her jeans worn through at the knees, and she was muttering something to a teddy bear she held like it was the only friend she had in the world. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. She looked determined, and that's what stopped me cold. I put down my sports paper and walked over to the door to hold it open for her. She looked up at me with wide brown eyes and a smile that didn't belong to someone who had it easy. "Thank you, mister," she said, dragging the cart past me. She walked straight to the back row of machines like she'd done it 100 times before. No hesitation. No fear. She started stuffing clothes into the washer. Jeans, shirts, socks. Everything together, colors and whites mixed like it didn't matter. Then she pulled a box of off-brand detergent from her cart, poured it in, and slapped some coins into the machine. I was still standing near the entrance, pretending to read the sports page, but really just watching her. After she hit the start button, she pulled a little stuffed bear out of her backpack and sat down in one of the molded plastic chairs. She started whispering to it while the washer filled with water. From where I stood, I could see her clothes were clean, just old and faded. Too thin for a winter morning. No gloves. No hat. No adult anywhere in sight. I've got 2 sons. I know what 7 looks like, and I knew in my gut no one should be that young and that alone. Still, I went through the motions. Put my laundry in, sat down a few chairs away. I pulled out a vending machine soda and a bag of M&Ms. Mostly because I was hungry and hadn't eaten since the night before. The Knicks had lost again, and I had washed down my frustration with a hot dog and a bottle of malt liquor from the bar near my apartment. I cracked the soda, leaned back, and caught her looking at me. Not at my face, but at the snack in my hand. Her eyes were locked on it like she was trying to hypnotize it into flying over. My chest tightened. "You want some?" I asked gently. She straightened up. Her smile faded, replaced by something cautious. "Mom says not to take food from strangers," she said quietly. "Especially men." I nodded. "That's a good rule. Your mom's right." She relaxed a little. "How about this?" I said. "I'll put it on the chair next to you. You can take it if you want. No pressure." She nodded, still unsure. I placed the soda and candy on the chair beside her and went back to the machine, bought myself another set. Then I sat down again and picked up the paper. 5 minutes later, I saw her slowly reach over and pull the snack toward her lap. She opened the candy first, eating a few pieces one by one. Then the soda. She didn't say anything, just kept whispering to her bear. I didn't push it. After about 90 minutes, my laundry was done. I folded it, packed up, and loaded it into my trunk. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I glanced at the laundromat window. She was still inside, waiting for the dryer to stop. And then she was gone from my mind. I didn't think about her again until the next Sunday. I went back around the same time, not expecting anything. But part of me was curious. I wondered if she'd show up again. About 30 minutes later, she did. Same wobbling cart, same jacket, same look of determination. I held the door for her again. She gave me another smile and went straight to the back. After she got everything into the machine, I walked over and sat beside her. "Looks like that cart's still giving you trouble," I said, pointing to the bent wheel. She nodded, playing with the bear in her lap. "Mind if I try to fix it?" Another nod. I flipped the cart over and checked the rear axle. One wheel was bent inward. I pushed it straight with my hands, gave it a test roll. Much better. "Instant repair," I said, dusting off my hands. She looked impressed. "I'm Jack," I said, offering my hand. She shook it with more seriousness than most adults I know. "I'm Mia Torres." "Nice to meet you, Mia. Now that we're not strangers, can I offer you a snack without breaking any rules?" She grinned. "Can I get the real kind of soda this time?" "You got it. 1 real cola coming up. And M&Ms for both of us." We spent the next 2 hours talking, playing tic-tac-toe. I grabbed a notepad from my car and taught her how to play. She beat me 3 times in a row before I figured out she was letting me win first. She reminded me of Dylan and Tyler when they were little. How they used to sit on my lap and ask me to draw them pictures, make up stories, before things fell apart. Just when I was lost in that memory, I heard Mia's voice cut through. Your turn, she said, pointing at the page. I smiled and marked an X. She scored 3 O's diagonally and drew a line through them with dramatic flair. High five, I said, raising my hand. She climbed onto the chair to reach it, her little fingers slapping mine with pride. I stayed until her clothes were dry and folded. I offered her a ride home, but she shook her head. Mom says I can't. It's a rule. Your mom's smart, I said. Hope I get to meet her someday. Maybe, she said. She doesn't like going out. The seasons started changing. Every Sunday morning, Mia showed up like clockwork. I started packing extra snacks and sandwiches. One for her, one to take home to Mom. She never refused. She told me she was starting 2nd grade in the fall. Said she'd never met her dad. Her mom worked evenings but was always home by the time she got back from school. They didn't go out much. Sometimes the park, mostly cartoons and TV. Then one Sunday she came in late. No cart. No laundry. Just her teddy bear clutched to her chest. Tears streaked her cheeks. My mom didn't come home last night, she whispered. I don't have any money for the machines. I crouched down in front of her, careful not to scare her. Has that ever happened before? I asked gently. She shook her head. Mom always comes back. It's one of her rules. I could see she was trying to be brave, holding back the full wave of panic building behind her eyes. But she was just a kid, 7 years old, in the middle of a laundromat, trying to act like she had it under control. I sat her down, opened the little bag I'd packed for her, and handed her a sandwich and juice box. Eat. We'll figure this out. Okay? She nodded and took tiny bites, like the food might disappear if she ate too fast. My mind was spinning. If I called the cops, they'd take her into custody, maybe into foster care. But what if her mom just got stuck somewhere? What if she walked in later and found her daughter gone forever? I didn't trust the system. I'd already seen how cruel it could be. So I did what felt right. How about we go to your apartment? I said. Leave your mom a note. I'll give her my number, and she can call me when she gets back. Mia hesitated. It's breaking a rule. But she didn't come home, so maybe I don't want to be there alone. That was all I needed. We packed up and left. Her apartment wasn't far, small, run down, the kind of place with flickering lights in the hallway and that sour smell of old carpet. Inside, it looked like someone had walked out midlife. Dishes in the sink. 2 pairs of shoes by the door. A small table with just 1 chair. On the fridge were crayon drawings held up by off-brand magnets. We didn't pack anything. There wasn't much to pack. I scribbled a note. Mia is safe. Call Jack. 555-1922. I left it in the middle of the table. Then we went shopping. Toothbrush, comb, socks, underwear, a few tops and jeans. She smiled the whole time, politely asking if each item was okay before putting it in the cart. Back at my place, we watched cartoons while I made us grilled cheese for dinner. She giggled at the dumb jokes on TV and curled up next to me like she'd done it 1,000 times before. At 9 o'clock, I tucked her into the spare room on the pull-out couch. She hugged her bear tight and whispered, "Thank you." I called in a personal day from work. The next morning, we waited until lunchtime before checking her apartment again. Still no sign of her mother. Something felt off, like the air inside had settled, waiting for bad news. I started looking for anything that could help. In the bedroom dresser, I found a stack of papers. One of them was Mia's birth certificate. No father listed. Her mother's name was Elena Torres. I took the document and a small photo tucked into the back of the drawer. Elena holding baby Mia, both of them smiling. Elena looked barely 25 in the photo, tired but beautiful, with the same big brown eyes as her daughter. When we got back to my place, I turned on the Disney Channel and let Mia watch. Then I stepped into my bedroom, closed the door, and called the police. I reported Elena Torres as missing, gave them the address, described the situation, told them her daughter was with me and safe. The officer on the line asked if the child was alone now. No, I said. She's with me. I'm probably the only adult she trusts right now. The officer paused. If you're willing to keep her safe until we sort this out, I'll make a note of that. Someone from social services may call. I hung up and stared at the wall for a long time. I couldn't let them take her. If she got placed somewhere, I might never see her again. Then I remembered something. My boss's wife, Karen, had some deep connections in the city's child welfare departments. She'd helped a few families during tough custody battles. I'd worked for her husband for over 20 years. If anyone could help me keep Mia out of the system, it was Karen. I called her, explained the situation. She didn't hesitate. I'll be there in 20 minutes. True to her word, she arrived, met Mia, and instantly won her over. Within 5 minutes, they were laughing. Mia was showing off her tic-tac-toe skills like it was an Olympic sport. Before Karen left, she gave me a long hug. "I'll do everything I can," she said. "You're doing the right thing." That afternoon, 2 uniformed officers came by to take a statement and collect the photo of Elena. They didn't sound hopeful. "Sometimes people just disappear," one of them said quietly as he put the photo in his folder. The next morning, I brought Mia with me to work. Thankfully, my company had a little daycare room that I never used because my ex-wife Lisa stayed home when our kids were small. But now I was the stay-at-home parent with a second chance. Mia and I had lunch together. I brought her home at 5. We made spaghetti and garlic bread and fell asleep watching cooking shows. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't perfect. But it felt like something solid. Something real. The more time we spent together, the more I saw it in her face. Something she'd never had before. Safety. And something I hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Weeks went by, and every day with Mia made the hole in my heart feel a little smaller. We found a rhythm. I'd wake her up, make breakfast, usually toast, eggs, and whatever fruit was cheapest that week. Then drop her off at school before heading to the office. She'd draw me little notes during recess and slip them into my lunch bag. Things like, "Best dad ever," or "I beat Tommy in math today." I never told her she wasn't really my daughter. Not because I wanted to lie, but because she made it so easy to forget we weren't blood. I never heard back from the police or child services. No calls. No visits. No updates on Elena. Karen must have pulled some strings because no one came knocking on my door. Maybe they had bigger fires to put out, or maybe someone decided Mia was better off right where she was. Either way, I didn't ask questions. I just kept showing up. One Friday, I surprised her with a trip to the park after school. We grabbed pretzels and sodas from the corner stand and sat on a bench while she told me all about a spelling test and how she thought her teacher had a crush on the gym coach. She was funny like that, sharp, observant, and completely unfiltered. That night, as we were brushing our teeth together, she looked up at me and said, "You're really good at this. Being a dad." I spat out toothpaste and smiled. "You're pretty good at being a daughter." She nodded like it was the most natural thing in the world and went back to brushing. That weekend, we cooked pancakes together, chocolate chip, her favorite. She burned one, I dropped 2 on the floor, and we laughed like fools the whole time. I hadn't laughed like that in years. Not with Lisa. Not even when Dylan and Tyler were little. Back then, I was always tired, always working, always trying to keep the machine running. This felt different. This felt alive. Then one night at the grocery store, while we were picking out apples and cereal, Mia spotted a woman down the aisle and tugged on my sleeve. "She's pretty," she whispered. I glanced over. Short, caramel-colored skin, big brown eyes, wearing jeans and a soft gray jacket. She turned and caught me looking. We both smiled. Awkward, quiet, but something passed between us. "She's real pretty," Mia said again. "You should ask her out." I chuckled. "That's not how it works, kiddo." "Why not?" "Because I'm an old man who hasn't been on a date since dinosaurs roamed the earth." Mia rolled her eyes. "You're not old. You just need practice." We passed her again by the frozen veggies. Mia slowed down, gave me a push. "Go." So I did. "Hi," I said. "I'm Jack. That's Mia, my daughter. She thinks I should ask you out. So, here I am. Asking." The woman laughed, and it was the kind of laugh that made you forget what you were nervous about. "Well, Mia has excellent taste. I'm Naomi." We stood there for a moment, smiling like teenagers until Mia finally broke the silence. Can I have cookies now? We exchanged numbers. Made a plan for dinner the next weekend. Italian food. Mia was already planning our outfits like we were going to a royal ball. That Saturday, we cooked lasagna, garlic bread, and a dessert that we completely ruined but pretended was rustic. Naomi arrived with a bottle of wine and a calm presence that filled the room like sunlight. We ate, talked, laughed. Mia sat between us like a little diplomat, keeping the conversation going whenever we ran out of things to say. After dinner, Mia asked Naomi a million questions about her name, her job, her favorite color. Naomi answered them all with grace and humor. Then came the big one. Have you ever been married? Naomi's smile flickered. She looked at me, then back at Mia. Yes, a long time ago. What happened? She hesitated, then took a sip of her wine. I made a mistake. A big one. I hurt someone I really loved. Mia's eyes went wide. Did he yell at you? No, Naomi said softly. He just left, and I've never blamed him for it. The room went quiet, cleared my throat. Naomi told me the truth, Mia. That's what matters. Mia nodded slowly, then grabbed Naomi's hand and said, Well, I like you. Naomi blinked fast, and her voice cracked just a little. I like you too. After Mia went to bed, Naomi stayed. We sat on the couch, close but not touching, talking until the clock hit midnight. Before she left, she kissed me on the cheek. I haven't felt this safe in years, she whispered. I didn't say anything, just walked her to the door and stood there for a long time after she left. I was starting to feel whole again, until I saw Naomi 2 weeks later, walking into a restaurant, laughing hand in hand with another man. It was a Tuesday evening. I had just picked up a pizza for Mia and me when I saw her, Naomi, walking into a sleek little bistro near the pizzeria, hand in hand with a tall, well-dressed man. She was laughing, that same easy, open laugh she gave me. Her hand never left his. I froze in my car, one hand still on the door, the pizza burning through the box on my palm. Felt like I had been punched in the chest. I hadn't been this blindsided since Lisa looked me in the eye and told me her weekend with Marcus wasn't betrayal. Naomi had told me she'd be working late and grabbing dinner afterward. She just didn't say with who. I stood there too long. By the time I came to, I was late getting home. Mia had already opened the door for Mrs. Ramirez, our neighbor, and was telling her all about the spaghetti project we were supposed to try that weekend. I barely registered the conversation. I dropped the pizza on the table and mumbled something about being stuck in traffic. Naomi didn't call that night, or the next. I didn't reach out either. I needed to think. The last time I gave someone my trust, they lit it on fire. And now, just when I was finally rebuilding this, 3 days later, she came over as if nothing happened. Mia ran to the door to greet her, practically tackling her with a hug. Naomi looked relaxed, happy. Guess who I ran into this week? She said, setting her purse down. My brother. He was in town for work and surprised me. Took me out to dinner Tuesday night. You would have loved it. He's got the worst jokes. I didn't say anything. I just stared at her. She stopped mid-sentence. What? I saw you, I said flatly, at that restaurant. With him. Her face drained of color. Is this the story you're going with? I asked. That did it. Her entire posture shifted. She took 2 steps toward me, hands clenched at her sides. You think I'm lying? Her voice cracked. Not from guilt, but rage. I told you everything about my past. Everything. And the second it gets hard, you decide I'm just like your ex. I stood there, still. You don't even ask. You just assume the worst, she said. I get it, Jack. She hurt you. But I am not Lisa. Mia was frozen in the hallway, peeking around the corner. Caught her eye. She backed away quietly into her room. Naomi shook her head, her voice trembling. You don't trust me. That's the problem. And if you can't trust me, then we can't do this. I felt something crumble inside. I wanted to fix it. I just didn't know how. Then I remembered something. Something I had been saving for the right moment. And maybe it was the wrong time, but it was the only card I had left. Wait, I said. pulling something from my jacket pocket. She flinched like I was about to throw it at her. Instead, I gently took her left hand, turned it palm down, and placed a folded piece of paper on her ring finger. I wrapped it in a thin elastic band. She blinked. "What is this?" "Just open it." She slid the paper out, unfolded it. Her lips moved as she read. "Custom order receipt. Engagement ring." She looked up, stunned. "I designed it last week. It's being made now," I said quietly. "Because I knew I wanted you in my life. Permanently." She didn't speak. Then she stepped forward, grabbed the front of my shirt, and pulled me into a kiss that could have ended a war. We broke apart only when Mia burst back into the room with a squeal. "What's happening? What did I miss?" Naomi held up the receipt, tears streaming down her cheeks, laughing and crying all at once. "I'm going to be a Sullivan too, baby," she said. Mia froze. "Wait, does that mean I can be a Sullivan too?" I bent down, scooped her into my arms, and kissed her on the forehead. "You already are, kiddo. Always have been." That night, I cooked dinner while Naomi helped Mia with homework at the kitchen table. We danced in the living room afterward. No music, just the sound of our own laughter. We had finally become something I thought I'd never have again. Family. But I wasn't done with the past just yet. Because a few months later, my phone rang, and a voice I hadn't heard in years was on the other end. "Dad? It's Tyler. Please don't hang up." I stood in the middle of the kitchen, holding the phone like it was something radioactive. Tyler. I hadn't heard his voice in 6 years. Not since the last court-ordered visit. Back then, he and Dylan sat across from me in silence, arms folded, barely speaking. Then Tyler delivered the final blow. "We're old enough now. We don't have to see you anymore. And we don't want to." They walked out of that restaurant like I didn't exist. Now here he was, calling me out of nowhere. "Tyler," I said slowly, still unsure if this was real. "Yeah, it's me." He sounded nervous. "Look, this isn't easy, but I wanted to call you myself. Not send a message through Mom or Dylan." I leaned against the counter, heart thudding. "I'm getting married next month," he said. "And I want you to be there." I couldn't speak. Part of me was overjoyed. Another part wondered if this was some kind of test. "You still there?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, just trying to remember how to breathe. He gave a short laugh. "I guess I deserve that." "No, you deserve the truth," I replied. "And I've wanted to give it to you for years." There was a pause. "You were right. About Mom. About what she did. I didn't see it then, but I do now. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. Did something happen?" Tyler cleared his throat. "She married that guy. The one she told you about. Marcus. She made him our stepdad. Told us you'd abandoned us. And I believed it. But the older I got, the more I started to see the cracks." Another pause. "Then I met Claire. And when we talked about our future, she asked me what I thought about loyalty. About trust. And I realized I didn't really understand either. Because I'd been lied to for most of my life." I swallowed hard. "Haley told me you're remarried," he added. "And that you've got a daughter now?" "Yeah," I said, almost whispering. "Mia. She's 16. I've been raising her since she was 7. He let out a long breath. "That's wild." "She saved me," I added. "When everything fell apart, she showed up with a busted laundry cart and a stuffed bear. And she gave me something to live for." "I'd like to meet her," he said. "You will," I promised. That call cracked something open. Over the next few weeks, Tyler and I talked more. Sometimes short check-ins, sometimes deep conversations. He told me he wanted me to sit at the wedding. Not in the back row. Not out of sight. Right there with him. Claire, his fiancée, even called me herself. She thanked me for raising Mia. Said Tyler talked about her like she was already part of the family. I asked Mia how she felt about going. She smiled. "If I get to wear a dress and eat cake, I'm in." Naomi was thrilled. She booked a salon day for the two of them the Friday before the wedding. On Saturday evening, we arrived just before the ceremony. Mia in a deep green dress. Naomi in something elegant and soft that made heads turn the moment we stepped into the church. I kept my head down, but I noticed the glances. Old friends, Lisa's parents, people I hadn't seen in over a decade. Then I saw Lisa. She looked good, but tired, like someone who'd spent too long pretending nothing ever hurt her. She was seated 2 rows up, clinging to Marcus's arm. When the music started and Tyler appeared, I almost lost it. He looked just like I remembered, only older, stronger, and more grounded. He spotted me as he walked down the aisle and gave me a subtle nod. After the vows, the reception kicked off in a fancy ballroom lit with chandeliers and fake candlelight. We found a table in the back corner, away from the chaos. That was fine with us. Mia looked like a movie star. Her hair was curled, her makeup soft. She was laughing at something Naomi said when I heard a voice behind me. I almost didn't recognize you. Lisa. She stood there in a pale silver dress, looking at me like she expected something. An apology, maybe. A fight. Instead, I smiled. You look well, I said. You too, she replied. That girl, your daughter. She's beautiful. She is. There was a pause. Then she leaned in, her voice low. This should have been our day, Jack. You and me. Not you and her. I turned toward her, calm but clear. No, Lisa. This day belongs to Tyler. Not you. Not me. And if you hadn't made the choice you did back then, maybe it would have turned out different. You didn't love me enough to forgive me, she said quietly. No. You didn't love me enough not to do it in the first place. She blinked. And for the first time in years, she had no comeback. Then she turned and walked away. Naomi walked over just as Lisa vanished into the crowd. You okay? I nodded. More than okay. We raised our glasses and toasted to Tyler and Claire. To new beginnings. But deep inside, I was still waiting for one more voice to come back. Dylan. Dylan had always been the quieter of the twins. Observant, thoughtful, slow to speak but never unkind. When he and Tyler cut me off all those years ago, it hurt, but I always wondered if Dylan had gone along with it more out of loyalty than conviction. A few months after Tyler's wedding, I found out. It was a random Thursday night. Mia was at a study group, Naomi working late. I was flipping through channels, not really watching anything, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in my gut told me to pick up. Hello. There was silence on the other end for a second. Then, hey, it's Dylan. I froze. I know it's late. I've been thinking about this call for a long time. I swallowed hard. I've been thinking about it too. He let out a breath. I'm not great with words. You know that. But I wanted to see you. In person. When? Tomorrow. If that's okay. We agreed to meet at a diner halfway between our places. I barely slept that night. I don't think Naomi did either. She held my hand for a long time after we got into bed, and all she said was, "Whatever happens, I'm proud of you." The next morning, I got there early and took the booth facing the door. When Dylan walked in, I stood up too fast and knocked over the salt shaker. He smiled a little. Same quiet smile he used to have when he'd catch me doing something clumsy. He sat down across from me. We didn't hug. We didn't shake hands. Just 2 cups of coffee and the weight of 6 years of silence. You look the same, he said. So do you. Just taller. That got a real laugh. We made small talk, his job, his apartment, sports. Then he put his cup down and stared at me. I was wrong. I didn't say anything. You were telling the truth. All along. And I let Mom's version become mine because it was easier. I didn't want to lose her too. I never asked you to choose. I know, he said. But I did. And I chose wrong. There were tears in his eyes now. Not dramatic. Just quiet regret. I want to be part of your life again. If you'll have me. I nodded. You were never out of it, not really. Just waiting for you to come back. He blinked fast. I brought something. He reached into his coat pocket and slid a bottle of whiskey across the table, Jack Daniel's Tennessee Honey. My favorite. Claire told me about the wedding. Said you were great. Said Mia's awesome. She is. I want to meet her. You will, I said. We'll do a proper dinner. Naomi makes a killer pot roast. Mia will talk your ear off. He smiled again, softer this time. Good. When we got up to leave, I hesitated, then pulled him into a hug. He didn't resist. Didn't even pretend to be too old for it. That night, we had dinner together. Naomi cooked. Mia grilled Dylan like he was a celebrity. By the end of dessert, they were exchanging inside jokes like they'd known each other for years. That's when it hit me. After all the pain, all the betrayal, all the rebuilding, this was it. This was the life I didn't know I needed. I never heard another word about Elena Torres. No update from the police. No mysterious reappearance. Mia didn't ask anymore, and I didn't push. Her silence spoke louder than any answer ever could. The state finally let me adopt her when she turned 16. She signed the papers herself. Said she wanted it more than a birthday party. At school, she asked to hyphenate her name, Mia Torres Sullivan. I told her she could drop the hyphen if she wanted. Not yet, she said. But maybe when I get married someday. I pretended to laugh, but inside, I was already dreading that day. Naomi and I had our share of struggles. No marriage is perfect, but we made it work. Every time we faced something hard, we chose to fight for each other, not against each other. One night, years later, after Mia had gone off to college, Naomi walked into the kitchen in one of my old t-shirts and wrapped her arms around my waist. You know what I realized? She whispered. What's that? You don't get your old life back. But sometimes you get a better one. And just when I thought things had come full circle, Sarah called. When I saw her name on the caller ID, I froze. I hadn't spoken to Sarah in over 6 years. Not since she told me to take my pride and shove it. Back then, she was 16 and furious, convinced I was the selfish one who broke our family apart. Now her name was lit up on my phone screen, and my hands were shaking. I answered, heart pounding. Sarah? Hi, Dad. Her voice cracked just enough to feel real. Please don't hang up. I wouldn't, I said quietly. I never would. There was a pause. Then, I'm getting married next month, and I want you there. I sat down. Her words echoed in my head. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, she continued. We just set the date, and I kept thinking about whether you'd even want to come. Of course I do, I said. More than anything. She let out a breath, like she'd been holding it in for years. I know I said awful things before, and I believed them back then. I thought you were just being stubborn, that you left because you were angry. But last week, when I stood there practicing my vows, something hit me. I didn't say a word. I thought about the promise I was making, about what it really means to give yourself to someone. And I realized what Mom did to you, how she treated that promise like it was nothing, and how you stood by your word, even when it cost you everything. I blinked fast, my vision blurred. You were right, she said. All those years, I blamed you, but you were the one who stayed loyal. And she broke us. Sarah, I whispered. That means more than you know. I'd like you to meet him, Daniel. He's a good man. I think you'll like him. I'd be honored. There was a pause. Also, I heard you have a daughter now. Yeah, I said, a little laugh escaping. Her name's Mia. She's 16. Almost as stubborn as you. She knows about us? She knows everything. From day one. She's always asked about you and Dylan. Then I'd like to meet her too, she said. We made plans for the wedding. She told me not to worry about expenses. Bob's got it covered, she said flatly. Bob. That name still hit like a punch. Marcus Bradford, now known to my kids as Bob. The man who wrecked my marriage and played the stepfather role like a polished actor. But I didn't say anything. This wasn't about him. When we got to the wedding, I let Naomi and Mia take the spotlight. Naomi wore a navy dress that hugged her just right, and Mia looked more like 21 than 16 in her emerald gown. I barely recognized her when she walked out of the salon the day before. We arrived just before the ceremony started and found seats near the back. I didn't want to distract from Sarah's big moment. The church was beautiful, old, ornate, with high ceilings and stained glass. As Sarah walked down the aisle, She looked radiant. She caught my eye for just a second and smiled, small but real. During the reception, we sat at a table in the back corner again, just like at Tyler's wedding. Naomi and Mia didn't complain. They were used to letting others have the stage. Then Sarah appeared. She walked up to our table, eyes already wet. "Hi, Daddy." I stood up. She threw her arms around me, and for a moment, she was my little girl again, before the divorce, before the pain, before the silence. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything. You're here. That's all that matters." She turned to Naomi and Mia. "You must be Mia." Mia smiled and shook her hand. "And you must be the sister I've heard way too many stories about." Naomi gave Sarah a hug and said, "He never stopped hoping." Sarah wiped her eyes and gestured toward her new husband. "Come on. I want you to meet Daniel." We shook hands. I gave him the classic dad line, "Hurt her and I'll ruin your life." He smiled and said, "Fair enough." Later that night, during one of the slower songs, Sarah walked over and held out her hand. "Dance with me." I hesitated, then stood and took her hand. We danced under the soft lights, surrounded by people we used to know, people who once chose sides. None of it mattered anymore. "You clean up well," she joked. "You make a beautiful bride." As the song ended, she hugged me one more time. "Thank you for coming back." "I never left," I said. When we returned to the table, Mia had joined Naomi on the dance floor, laughing, twirling, her curls bouncing in the air. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel like I was watching my life from the outside. I was in it, right where I belonged. The morning after Sarah's wedding, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, just watching the quiet sunlight roll through the window. Mia was already on a flight back to school, her first year at Lakeside State, and Naomi was still asleep, curled up on her side of the bed, one hand draped over my pillow. Everything felt still, earned, solid. And that's when my phone buzzed again. Dylan. This time it wasn't a quiet check-in. It was big news. He was getting married. He wanted us all there. No question about it. The wedding was smaller, more relaxed than Sarah's, but in its own way just as meaningful. Mia flew in again, bouncing through the house with energy like she'd never left. Naomi helped Dylan's fiancée, Lauren, with last-minute arrangements. And I got assigned to the grill master role at the rehearsal dinner, flipping burgers while Dylan stood beside me sipping a soda. "You ever think we'd be back here?" he asked. "Not in a million years," I said. He gave me a look. "But you never gave up." "No," I said. "I just kept the door unlocked." At the wedding, Mia danced with one of the groomsmen, a polite kid named Evan, who kept looking over at me like he was asking permission before every move. I wasn't mad. In fact, I kind of appreciated it. Before the slow song came on, Dylan pulled me aside and grinned. "You know, you've got a bit of a legend around here." "Oh yeah. Yeah. Evan says you're terrifying. But fair." "Terrifying is fair," I replied. We both laughed. Then I saw her, Lisa. She was sitting on the far side of the reception hall, alone. No Marcus. That didn't surprise me. Word was he'd traded her in for someone younger, flashier. Typical. Lisa looked thinner. Not in a healthy way. More like someone trying to hold it together with tape and paper clips. She glanced at me a few times throughout the evening, but she never approached. I wasn't sad about it. I wasn't angry either. I just didn't feel anything anymore. Near the end of the night, after a few too many dances and one too many slices of wedding cake, I sat back down at our table and let Naomi and Mia take another spin on the dance floor. That's when Lisa appeared. "Can I sit?" she asked. I didn't answer, just nodded. She sat across from me and watched the dance floor. "This was supposed to be our life," she said, not looking at me. "Kids growing up. Weddings. Grandkids someday." "No," I said. "This was supposed to be your lesson." She turned her head sharply. "You gambled everything," I said, my voice calm. "For what? A weekend? A thrill? And now you're sitting here trying to remember what it felt like to be part of something real." She blinked. Her mouth opened slightly like she wanted to speak, but nothing came out. You always thought I walked away because I was proud, I said. But I walked because I had to protect what little of me was left. I had to be the man I wanted my sons to grow into, even if that meant losing them for a while. I stood up and adjusted my tie. I hope you figure things out, Lisa. Really. But we're done here. She didn't follow. She didn't protest. She just sat there, alone, staring into a life that was no longer hers. I walked back to the dance floor, where Naomi grabbed my hand and pulled me into a slow sway. Mia joined in, sandwiching herself between us like we were the last 3 people left on Earth. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. And for the first time since the day I watched my ex-wife walk out the door with a suitcase and a smug smile, I didn't feel broken. I felt whole. Because in the end, I didn't lose. I rebuilt.